Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I want to apologize up front for we'll probably have a little noise in the back of us tonight. So my nieces are in town, and we had a one time hanging out with them. Got to go to the zoo, which we hadn't done. Our town has a wonderful, beautiful zoo. Perfect weather for it back into Michigan. Now that my kids are a little older, we don't go as often. So it was really fun getting out there, you know, and those kind of things. Tonight's is going to be welcome to the 1% tribe. Tonight, we're going to try to do something that is kind of profound in the sense of what we're going to go through, what frozen shoulder is, number one. Number two is what can we do in a different approach? If you understand shoulder issues, a lot of times we see there's a lot of people that suffer with this, right? So suffer with shoulder issues in general. Frozen shoulder is a very specific one that I want to go through tonight. That it's kind of like new discoveries, especially in our chiropractic world, of like what we can do to help those conditions. But I want us to understand like how these shoulder things you can really get a beat on a little bit more than just treating the shoulder. One of the biggest things that we do in our sick care model currently is try to, you know, only look at the muscles of the shoulder, the joint of the shoulder. Well, what about making sure that our innate intelligence of that entire system is working correctly? So tonight is going to be a lot about that. And so, and some checks you can do on yourself to like understand how this shoulder functioning works. And so we got to go through a little bit of understanding. It won't be too long tonight because I know it's a holiday weekend. Hopefully all of you are enjoying your holiday. In Michigan, I know it's been gorgeous. So I don't expect a lot of you on here. You're probably outside doing stuff at this point. But with that said, let's get started and then we can go through. If you have comments or questions, just remember to put them in the chat. I was talking to my brother, Casey, and he was like, you don't tell me when I don't see the thumbs up or the hearts, but it does help my video. So thumbs up and hearts that sucker as much as you want to, if it appeases you, right? So if you do that. And the other thing is here, I'm going to put all the places where you can follow us. So we have a YouTube presence, a Rumble presence, which is kind of like YouTube if you're not on it, a podcast presence, and an X presence, but that one you don't get as many recordings. I really push you towards the Rumble or the YouTube or the podcast, so then you can listen to it whenever you want to. And we're getting up there. I think I got like 60 people on Rumble, which is really good for not paying for a dime. I'm just hoping my content will get you there at some point. So with that said, here's our Rumble channel. I'm going to put that in the chat. I'm going to do that. Oh, sorry. I'm not the greatest at the technology, but you should see that. And here is our YouTube channel. YouTube's, I want to get that up there. That one is just YouTube. It's like Jeremy with an O and Rach, if you can find it on there. And then you just subscribe to these things. It's all free. And then you can listen to old episodes, you know, those kind of things as well. So if you're not too familiar with how all this works, it's like my addiction, a podcast especially. That's why I really enjoy the podcasting aspect of this. So I try to keep, especially tonight's um, that will explain things, but hopefully it's to a level that the podcast audience can understand where I'm going with it. Okay. So, and then the last thing is we have a little email list that only gets hit. I only send stuff out if I'm going live on here. And sometimes if there's some kind of sweet article, or eventually I want to write, articles as well, because I think chiropractic and holistic, it does a disservice. We don't get out to the general public as much as we should. And I think this is why I'm doing this. This is one reason. But so all those things are places you can do, follow us. And that one is called, it's called Substack. And for my podcast people, it's tribe1.substack.com. So tribe1.substack.com. And then the Rumble channel is The Prize Inside. And the podcast is A Prize Inside a Chiropractor's Journey. So there is that. So with that said, don't forget Wednesday night, about 8:30-ish, we start doing, or 7:30, between 7:30 and 8:30, we do Whole Health Weekly, where we go through all the articles of the week and trends. So, and see from a holistic perspective. So let's talk about some frozen shoulder stuff. Let's do it. All right, here we go. So move better, live better, conquering frozen shoulder. All right. Tonight, we're going to go over new discoveries, which we're going to talk about tonight, which I'm excited about. Once you understand where I'm going with this, it helps so much. So we're going to go over new discoveries that can understand how frozen shoulder and other shoulder conditions work. What are some of the movements we can do to improve this area? Because I don't want to give you too much. There's tons out there, but some of these movements, it'll be super helpful. And the different treatments that you can do to make a big difference on top of having the shoulder issue. Okay. All right. So let's do, the first thing is we're going to do the definition of what a frozen shoulder is. So this is different than rotator cuff tear, shoulder bursitis, AC joint. These are all different conditions. Frozen shoulder is a little bit different, and I'm going to show you why. So frozen shoulder, medically known as adhesive capsulitis, is a condition characterized by stiffness, pain, and limited range of motion in the shoulder joint. It occurs when the capsule of the connective tissue surrounding the shoulder, it becomes thickened and inflamed, leading to adhesions and restrict movement. And that's actually not always true. So we're going to talk about that. The condition typically progresses through 3 stages. The freezing stage, which is the interesting one, gradual onset of pain and increased stiffness. Sometimes there's no pain or stiffness to this. Limiting shoulder mobility, lasting weeks to months. Frozen stage, which is pain may also go away, but the stiffness stays there, and it severely restricts movement, and that lasts 4 to 12 months. And then what they call a thawing stage is gradually improvement in range of motion through full recovery, could take 1 to 3 years. 1 to 3 years. Okay. But here's the kicker. There's recovery. And that's where a chiropractor that I got to know, his name was, Steve Franson is his name. He's out of Dallas, Texas area. Kept saying they get in better. So how is it possible it's taking this long to get there? Well, one of the reasons is we didn't go in the right areas. Okay. So that's one of the keys that was happening. It commonly affects adults aged 40 to 60. It is prevalent in women and is associated with conditions like, and they've connected these two, diabetes, thyroid disorders, or prolonged immobility. Diagnosis is primarily clinical, based on symptoms and physical examination. Through imaging, X-ray, MRI may rule out other causes. So one of the big things about frozen shoulder is there's not any injury to the shoulder muscles itself. And potentially there could be no arthritis or anything showing up. So it's kind of this giant mystery that occurs in medical, that they basically say, Okay, so the studies say let's keep working the shoulder, which is not a bad idea, by the way. It's working the shoulder until it improves. Oh, yes. Marilyn, well, yes, she had this. So we're going to talk about how we can fix this too. So, yes. So when we have the shoulder issue, sometimes you'll get, and this is what us chiropractors kept running into, is we'd have an orthopedic surgeon not want to do surgery on something because they didn't see any muscle damage. It's crazy. And it's way more common than people realize, because what happens is it might actually hurt with the first time it occurs, but a lot of times it's not hurting, but your range of motion goes away. Okay. And so what we've learned in the holistic side was that these people could bring their shoulder up to a certain spot. Now, there's a lot of people that have frozen shoulder currently, but they don't even know it. They can go, if I bring my arm all the way up with my thumb kind of going forward and I laterally raise that above my head, okay, that should not, you should be able to do that. What you'd find in a frozen shoulder is they'd get to here and then they can't do it. There's something blocking that muscle. They're trying to get that, so they'll bend their body to get it up there and turn it. All of these things start happening in frozen shoulder. And the biggest question was why? Like, why was this occurring where you couldn't raise your arm above, like closer to your ear, like you're going to raise your hand above your head? Well, that led us into what we're going to talk about tonight and the miraculous things that could happen, when you understand what else is going on in there. Okay. All right. So we'll just keep going. So that's what frozen shoulder looks like. Okay. So now here is where we got to start. Okay. So what 1% Tribe is always all about is about understanding. It's about understanding it, because then you are able to, in your mind's eye, have a holistic perspective to potentially why this stuff is occurring. So your shoulder is made up of 3 different bones. You have this humerus, you have this thing they call the scapula or the shoulder blade, and you have your collarbone in the front. Tonight's talk is going to be a lot about that shoulder blade or scapula. Okay. As you can see from this diagram that I have on there, the shoulder blade is a lot more than just the shoulder blade. It's actually the little fossa or the little cup, right, where the ball of your humerus goes into. And that's big to understand, because one of the problems is we feel it out here thinking it's good. So we feel it out where that ball is, right? The humeral head or the shoulder ball, where it goes into the cup. So we always naturally assume that there's something wrong with the ball of the cup or the ball. But really, you're going to find out tonight, it's very much potentially the cup and that shoulder blade itself. Okay. All right. So hopefully that will make sense. Here is just the general nerves. And we need to know this as well, because this is one of the problems that we have to discuss. Okay. So let's stop this real quick. Well, not stop it, but so my biggest thing that you will understand is that we have to take our brain away from the shoulder itself in this, especially in this frozen shoulder thing. Now, this is going to go with all shoulder conditions. Okay. All of them, from a pitcher in baseball to you are 85 years old and you're getting this frozen shoulder. It all has a similar situation where we must make sure that the nerves of our body and our spine are working properly. Okay. And tonight is going to show you why, when we don't do that, it leads us to different problems that could really, really nail us. Okay. So that's what tonight's going to be about. Okay. So we have all these nerves. If you look throughout your neck and look at this big, giant nerve supply that comes from the top between your vertebrae, right? That top part of your neck, upper thoracic, you would say, the part you'd rub in between your shoulder, just on the top of where your shoulder blades are. And it goes all the way up to the very base of your neck. A lot of these there's so much spinal flow and nerve flow to that shoulder that we have to look at everything. Julie, you have a frozen shoulder. You're going to see why. We're going to talk very soon then. So with that shoulder, this nervous system has to get going in that realm. Okay. Because as we go, you're going to have we're going to need that flow, that neurological flow. But here's the difference. These nerves are not located in your shoulder. The original piece of these are coming from your brain and spinal cord. Okay. And so a lot of times this doesn't get seen. And so eventually, after a year, 6 months, a year, whatever, that's what starts stimulating people to go, okay, that finally gets it over the top, right? But it's so much quicker than that. It can be so much quicker than that. Okay. So this is just a good example of that. Now, this is the trick. I'm going to tell you, all of these muscles, all of these nerves pass even what they call cranial nerves. Cranial nerves are the nerves that actually literally leave your cranium. They don't even go to they don't go down the spinal column as far as vertebrae go. They actually leave sometimes prior to the spinal column. Okay. And it's that first couple vertebrae way up top. You'll have all these nerves. You have one that's called the facial nerve, and then you got all these different accessory nerves. Okay. And so they're all right off the top of the spinal column, or the nervous system, the spinal cord. Sorry. So as it's going through there, things can happen to stop the nervous system patterning to the shoulder, right? So, and we'll go through this one time. If one of these talks we'll actually do on Bell's palsy as well. Bell's palsy is where the facial nerve gets irritated. And I cannot tell you how many patients and some of you've probably had friends that had this. Many times it's the same thing, like in medicine, in our healthcare or whatever, sick care model that we currently have. No one knows where we don't look anywhere else except for where that facial nerve is. So trigeminal nerve, or that Bell's palsy, is where this whole side of a face will go numb. And the function of the muscles of that will go numb. So all of a sudden they have an eye that stays open. Their jaw doesn't raise up as well. A lot of these different things will start to happen. Similar effect. It's a nerve problem in the upper and in the neck area. Okay. But we keep looking in the wrong place, or doing chemicals or whatever to try to see if some kind of magic will happen, that this will happen. And over time, your body is so good that, yeah, you can get over it. But why suffer for a year to 3 years? It's crazy. But no one knows to do what we're about to talk about. Okay, so look at this one. This is called the spinal accessory nerve. This is cranial nerve 11. There's 12 cranial nerves themselves, and we're just going to talk this very specific. I don't know if you guys can see my picture, but the picture shows this little yellow line. That little yellow line, it goes to various areas, right? It goes to these different muscles of your neck. And okay, so that makes sense, right? It goes to these muscles of the neck, but the sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscle not only go to your neck, but they also go to your shoulder blade and your collarbone. Okay. So you're seeing kind of where this nerve that needs to flow perfect is having issues. Okay. All right. So let's keep walking. Okay. So here's another one. So this is the cervical spine. Look at this picture. Okay. So this is C1 through C7. Okay. Those are your vertebrae of your neck. Okay. Look at how many nerve supplies are really, really close. You have greater occipitals. you have all these different nerves that literally go up into your head and skull and down your shoulders to control and make all of those things function. Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of nerve supply. And there's only one place it can go, guys, right? So if we want full functioning, if we want great shoulders, we got to have our vertebrae in our neck working like it should. Okay. All right. Hopefully this is making sense. I love this part. Okay. So here's another one. This is spinal. This is the one we just said, spinal accessory nerve number 11. You see how it kind of comes out, what they call this big foramen, this big hole. Okay. But it comes out the foramen magnum, which is, I'll show you that in a minute. The foramen magnum is the big hole in the bottom of your skull that allows your spinal cord to run through there, right? And then the spinal cord goes through to C1, right? C1's the first one. And then it goes C2, and then it just travels all the way down there, or down to your tailbone. Okay. So that's how long your spinal cord is. Now your spinal cord doesn't go all the way to your tailbone, but a lot of those nerves, they have to come from your brain down the rest of that spinal column. Okay. And here's the other kicker. Ready? Look at this trapezius muscle. Okay. So it's getting supplied and innervated, which is the muscle supply, to that area. Okay. So hopefully you're putting a little bit of this together as we go. Okay. So all of these nerves have all of this functioning in that shoulder region, exactly where our frozen shoulder needs that nerves to work the best it can, right? The upper neck, actually probably from the upper back down to the lower neck, those nerves coming out of the cervical area need to work in a perfect function to be able to allow you to raise your hand all the way up. Okay. And we'll go into kind of the discovery that was occurring that happens. Okay. So this is where we're going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to show you a few videos. Let me pull that up, actually. Sorry, guys. I thought I had it all figured out, and then I forgot something. Nope. It's like panicky when you got to set all this up. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Where's my... Okay, here we go. Okay, so I have a few exercises we want to do. But before we go into that, what I want to show you is when we have an upper cervical problem, so the skull on your head and the top vertebrae of your neck are not working in the proper order. That's what chiropractic does. We look at that. If that is not functioning as it should, then our nerve supply to the rest of the shoulder area is going to have issues. Now, what was discovered that I keep talking about? That spinal accessory nerve comes out that foramen magnum, the little hole in your skull, and it starts to go down C1, C2. Okay, so it starts to go down near C1, and then it goes to your shoulder blade. Okay, so your shoulder blade on either side to make your arm move. So in this portion, okay, so this is where it's kind of cool. So to have your arm go all to like level to your body, when it goes to there, that can be the muscles of your shoulder. Okay, so your what they call your rotator cuff. To rotate it as well is the rotator. So a lot of people that had frozen shoulder could get it right to here, no problem, almost with no pain. They could rotate it kind of with no problem, right? But what happens is when you say go above that level, above the level of your shoulder where you're trying to go up to like your ear, right? They couldn't do it. The reason is because the innervation, the nerve supply to the shoulder blade through that spinal accessory nerve is irritated to the point that it won't fire and allow your shoulder blade the cup, right? We talked about that. The cup and the humerus head. The cup isn't raising up. It's not doing its job to raise that arm up. And so what this doctor in Dallas, Texas found, and I actually studied under him because of this, is that once you get your neck, your upper neck free and clear of what is happening up there, it's almost instantaneous. It's almost instantaneous. You can watch people's arms raise up. Okay. So they can go beyond that location almost with no pain. Now, it depends on how long it's been there. A lot of times, almost every time the first adjustment, the first time it happens, I can see that thing go past where they were before just by the adjustment part. Why? Because when you look at the cause of something and not the actual dis-ease, okay, so what happens is a lot of times we focus on the dis-ease. So the dis-ease is the shoulder problem, but that's not the cause. There's other causes, correct? We talk about this in holistic all the time. The cause is truly this neurological miscommunication that's not allowing this nerve to raise your shoulder blade up to the point where you can have free and clear motion. Now, I'm going to argue that I think there's quite a bit of our society that actually has this frozen shoulder situation. I see it all the time. They may not even know they have it. The reason, and Mary Ellen could tell you, frozen shoulder sometimes is not painful. This is a frozen shoulder. You don't know you have it until you try to raise your arm above your head, right? Or go get something out of the cupboard that's a little above your head. Why? Because if there's no pain to it, then it's the function of that shoulder that is the part that we don't see. And that's okay. We just have to make sure we understand that it's coming from a different variation, right? So understanding that the cervical spine, the neurology that goes into that area has to be flowing right, or else shoulder problems are going to occur. One of the biggest areas that we should make sure our spine and nervous system are running at a great level is up between our upper back and our neck. Okay. A lot of people are afraid of that, and there's lots of techniques and, those kind of things. It's a tough one because of the fear that people have with, that area. But the problem is the amount of neurological things that are happening in that area do so many things, from headaches to shoulder problem. And for me, if I had an athlete in my life right now that was throwing a ball every day, I would check, which I did. My oldest was a softball kid, and now I have a kid that's doing tennis. So I'm going to check her upper back and neck constantly because of the shoulder movement she has to have. By allowing yourself to have full, clear communication to every muscle of your shoulder, which is many, many of those, right? There's 20 some muscles just in your shoulder. If the nervous system is working properly, then the shoulder movement will be working even better. Okay. So tonight, what I want to do is go through a couple exercises, nothing major. I don't want you to think anything crazy major tonight, that where we're going to start talking about shoulder blade movement exercises that we can see like how our shoulder blades are actually doing, because no one thinks about that. So tonight we're going to do a few. There's a couple that are a little tougher than the others, but pick the ones that work for you best. And once you do that, you're going to start seeing that shoulder blades start going. Now, the kicker also is shoulders are one of those forever joints. What I mean by that is you use it every day, all the time. Regardless if you put it in a sling, you can only do that for so long. We have to live our life, right? So by adding 1% improvement, right, in shoulder movement patterns, that would be awesome. right? And then all of a sudden we can start seeing these shoulder things kind of start going a little different. Because if you don't, you can live years with this stuff, and that's true, but the recovery is way harder. Okay. So, with that said, let me do my screen share. Let's go here. All right. So, let's do this one first. I like this guy.
Hey guys, this is the.
Where is my. Okay. Okay. We're going to let the ad kind of run. Okay. Okay. So here is one where he's standing. This one's probably one of my favorites to just do every day. So what he's doing is he's putting his heels, his butt, his shoulder blades, and his head onto the wall. Okay. We all have this. So what we want to do, because a lot of us cannot do this right now. See how he's tucking his chin? This helps with the cervical range, but it's also helping with the shoulder blades. So remember that as well. But see the muscles that he's working. Okay. They are very much attached to the shoulder blades. Okay. This is a fantastic exercise I would recommend. So this one is pretty unique too, is where you're bringing your head, raising it up, bringing it back down. I love this one for that upper neck area. And a lot of times, and these are simple, like you're talking 20 seconds, five breaths a minute. So for my podcasters, he's against the wall with all of his body on the wall. And then he's raising his chin up, keeping track of like how his head is hitting the wall. This one, you're keeping the head on the wall. The feet are against the wall as well. And you're doing side bendy motion, but with your neck. And that one's pretty good. Let me go into another one. And this one's just rotation. So keeping your hands flat, like away from the wall, right? So you're not touching the wall with your hands, but your palms out. And then you're just rotating, but you're keeping your neck away. You're keeping your neck or your head, the back of your head on the wall. This looks absolutely easy until you do it. So hopefully these will help a little bit as that goes. Okay. So now I want to show you this one. This guy, he's trying to get, he kind of is built like I am. I'm just kidding. This guy's like a beast. So don't worry about this. So we're going to go to, where's our good stuff? Okay. I got to get you the easy ones. Okay. Okay. So this one's really good. I really like it because it gives us a lot of different things that we should do. Oh, oops. Okay, there we go. It's called a scapula push-up. Okay. So scapula push-up is basically, and you can do this against the wall. You do not have to do it with, see how he's pinching his shoulder blades together and pushing them away. You can actually stand against the wall and get this exact same motion, which is fantastic. So you're basically doing a push-up, not bending your elbows at all, but taking your shoulder blades, pinching them together at the spine, pushing them away as far as they can go. Now you're trying to get them even. Okay. So we're trying to get them as even as possible, throughout that series. All right. We're going to skip the crazy reverse one. I want to get to this one. This is depression. So another one you can do. Now you can have your feet on the ground. This one is the motion of, I don't know, shrugging your shoulders, going as deep as you can, shrugging your shoulders up as deep as you can. As you're doing those, that kind of shrug your shoulders motion, are your shoulders, do they feel the same? Do they feel the same? That's a big one. Okay. I got one more. So this is the hanging way to do it. So you just grab a door or something above your head if you can do it, right? You don't have to like do it off there. But you see how he's moving his shoulder blades down? So you're doing the opposite of what you were just doing. You start in that and you come down. You start in that and you come down. Okay. Now, what I'm going to say to you, everyone, don't feel like you have to do that level of stuff, right? That's not necessarily doable. The guy is like a beast, right? But if I put your arms against if against the wall and you're away, like you're going to do a push up into the wall, and you do your shoulders back, your shoulders forward, your shoulders back, and your shoulders forward. A lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to actually feel a difference. Is one shoulder blade higher than the other? Is there differences in the movement pattern of both shoulders? And that's what we want to improve. We want to get these shoulders move, that shoulder blade moving. It should have this nice going around your rib cage. So it should be able to pinch all the way to your shoulder, your spinal, almost like feels like you're trying to, put it on your spinal bones. And then you should be able to pull it all the way out as far as you possibly can away from your spine. So you're trying to do this cool rocking motion, like a little arch. Okay. Back and forth. A lot of times when you start doing these simple exercises, though, you're going to notice a big difference in your shoulder improvement, even if you don't have a frozen shoulder. Let's say you had a torn rotator cuff or shoulder bursitis. All of these things are going to improve just with these motions. So hopefully you guys are seeing it. But one very simple one we can do without the video is you can sit in your chair and pull your shoulders as far out as they possibly can, and then pinch them together. And then you're pushing away, pinching together, right? You're constantly doing that back and forth. Do a few reps of those, and you're going to notice a big difference. Okay. The one that I love against the wall is so huge. If you put your whole body against the wall, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people that can't put their entire body against the wall comfortably. And that's where we want to be. That's what our ultimate goal is, when we're looking at these. So if we can improve that shoulder blade motion, we can tell the nerves of our spine, right? The thing about the upper neck and all those kind of things, you're going to tell your spine, hey, I'd like to keep this motion going. Please help me with that. And so what's crazy about your innate intelligence of your body is if you do it for real, it'll actually improve it. I swear to you, it's true. The biggest problem is we don't. Out of sight, out of mind becomes, especially in the shoulders. You can do, I'm going to pick on my ladies. There's so many ladies that do what they do, and they don't have time for their shoulder to not work, where they have to put these dishes above dishes above in a cupboard or something, and they move their body in a different way to get that job done, right? Which I don't fault them for, but we have to understand, okay, there's a problem there. Let's keep working it. Let's keep working that pattern. Health is not a one-day thing. It never will be. If you want your MDs to fix it in one day, that's great. But it's not a cure-all, fix-all. It's coming back. You have to do it. You have to fix it. Like as we go, chiropractic is going to help clear a lot of those nerves. But if you don't do the work, it doesn't really matter, right? You have to do the work. That's what 1% Tribe's all about. You do 5 minutes of this shoulder blade stuff. It's insanely good in how you can actually fix it. I like that. I used a robot. Thank you for this. Or we could just have a robot do most of our stuff. Man, I was hearing this one. This is going to be so cool because, oh man, now you're going to get me all philosophical. there's something cool about what's about to happen. And a lot of people are more freaking out about like what we're making Terminator robots that you can have at your house. I mean, like I've known 4 or 5 people that literally have robot lawnmowers, which I don't disagree with necessarily. But what we have to do is make sure there's an understanding. There's going to be a group of people that are going to teach us that everything in that world, this new tech, all this stuff that's coming is going to be the best thing, and it's better for us. It's better. The wearable technology, the, whatever, right? So you can think of many things in healthcare that's going to pop up. But what's fascinating is I really think, and I believe that a bunch of us are going to figure out, oh my gosh, we can do that ourselves. We've always been able to do that ourselves. And now maybe we can actually see it. You see what I'm saying? I'm hoping you do. So there's going to be more philosophical nights on this, the robot world where we don't have to do anything. Austin, you rock as usual. Thank you for doing a comment too. I'm loving it. So, but a lot of times with those shoulders, without the robot yet, we will be able to like really improve our stuff. We just have to make sure that we're working on it in a very good way, right? We want to take away any interferences to the nervous system, which we're going to talk about just in the rest of this slide tonight. So not only did we just talk about the physical, right? So we have what? You guys all know thoughts, toxins, trauma. Okay. So we have to address all of them as far as shoulders go. So thoughts, toxins, trauma are all big things. So we just went through traumatic, right? The nerve of your neck, especially your upper neck, gets irritated or interfered with, stops your scapula or shoulder blade from moving properly. You don't notice it because it's a neck problem, not a shoulder problem. So that the shoulder problem goes for a long time. You don't even know you got it. And then all of a sudden you're stuck with this like chronic shoulder problem. So that's one, right? And then by doing these shoulder blade exercises, we can do some stuff. Okay. So now let's talk about obviously strengthening the shoulder. So what can we do to fix it? So we showed you the stretches that we can do and the exercises, motions. Don't think of them as stretches. Think of them as exercises, actual deliberate movement of getting those shoulder blades working correctly. You want to always strengthen the shoulders, right? And strengthen the neck. So those are being in that cool shrug motion. Very good exercise to do. And anything related to the shoulders, doing a nice shoulder workout of any type. And again, it doesn't have to be very, very long time. Don't let time get in your way of these different exercises. If it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. My old Dr. Geimer had this thing where he's watching a commercial and he would do a shoulder workout with some dumbbells next to his couch. Just make sure you move them so you don't smash your feet. So when you have the dumbbells right there, what are you doing during the commercial of your favorite game? I don't know. You could be lifting shoulder workout just for a little bit and be done. That's as simple as this stuff can be, guys. That's the biggest thing I want to get across. Okay. So now we also want to go through what also could help you in the shoulder world, of course, in our herbal remedies, right? We even went, if you're not on our 1% Tribe subscription, go back and watch turmeric and ginger. Turmeric and ginger are both two fantastic anti-inflammatory herbs. Many ones like that you can go back. I got a recording, I think it was a couple weeks ago, that we did a whole ginger one. It was very fun. No, I think it was last week. Last week we did the ginger one, and that was really, really good. A lot of these times when you start looking at anti-inflammatory herbs, you can really help yourself. A huge question that came this week at the office was, what can I do for joint health, which is a huge one too, because let's say this communication pattern in your shoulder has been off for a very long time. Now I get some arthritis based on that. Sometimes you can get what's good joint health supplements, right? Everybody talks about glucosamine and chondroitin. But why is bone broth such a big deal? And why are they putting it in powders and trying to sell it to you? Why do you think that is? Because that in a broth form is something that we should be eating all the time. We should have broth with bone broth. Okay. So what I mean by that is take a chicken, slow cook it, eat that broth. Okay. The chicken has cartilage in it. The chicken has bone in it. The chicken has all of the things. It has muscle, all of the things. When you eat that broth, it allows that kind of nutrients to actually get in your system, and it will be better than chondroitin and glucosamine. Okay. And so there's some different ones. Krill oil is another really good one for joint health. Very, very big. Fish oil can be, but we're finding out, there's a study I did on Whole Health Weekly last Wednesday that, like if you do just a kind of a generic fish oil and you still have kind of a crappy diet, it can kind of work against you. So you want to be careful. Krill oil, on the other hand, does not necessarily do that. So just keep that one in mind. But if you're eating really clean, then fish oil is fine, right? So it just depends on, dietary stuff. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the last piece. We always have to put the thought in there, right? So the toxin, we can take some anti-inflammatory foods out of our diet, right? Get rid of the crappy seed oils that they keep talking about, the fake sugar that I hope we're getting to the point of. I'm so happy that the world is like opening up to, the crappy, seed oils and the stuff, and beef tallow making the news is pretty awesome. They'll take a really big step in my favor once they start looking at actual fake sugars. Until they hit that one, fake sugars is a metabolism nightmare. It's causing inflammation all over our body. Obvious, right? So fake sugar is horrific. Don't know how else to say it. Try to get out of that, because that, even in the shoulder problem, you want to eat clean, right? You want to eat as clean as you possibly can, because that way, if there's inflammation in there, it'll help you, right? So that's that. So that's the toxin portion. Now we're going to talk about the thoughts aspect. Okay. So remember, sometimes, this is not all the time, this is just one of the potential causes, right? There's thoughts, potentially it could be toxins, potentially it could be trauma. So you have to look at all of them and then see which one is causing the situation. Tonight, we're going to go through, her book is called Louise Hay, and it's called Heal Your Body. We're going to go through what she thinks is the probable cause if we have a subconscious thought pattern that is causing us a shoulder problem. Okay. So once you hear it, it's pretty cool. But then it's something like, if you have a shoulder problem, you can write this little mantra down and see if it helps improve your shoulder. Shockingly, you will be stunned, but it does happen all the time. People actually improve from these little different mantras. Okay. So I promise you that's true. Okay. So according to Louise Hay, the probable cause of shoulder problems, including issues like pain and stiffness or frozen shoulder, is, I quote, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and feeling like life is a burden. So this suggests that emotional burdens, stress, or a sense of being overwhelmed by responsibilities can manifest as physical shoulder issues. To address this, Louise Hay recommends a new thought pattern. Okay, so so get a sticky note out right now. A new thought pattern through affirmations. Her thought affirmation or new thought pattern would be, I choose to allow my experiences to be joyous and loving. I'll say it again. I choose to allow my experiences to be joyous and loving. As simple as that is. This affirmation aims to shift the mindset from burden to ease, promoting emotional release and physical healing by fostering self-love and a lighter perspective on life's challenges. Okay. So some people are like, yes, that's true. What's so cool about shoulder and these thought pattern pieces that we're going to add anytime we do this is that regardless, you're going to have a feeling, and let's say it has a little bit of the cause to it, right? We don't have to rehash it. We just got to go, oh, life's been pretty overwhelming for me lately, so maybe that is the cause. At the moment your body does that, the moment the body recognizes that that could be a potential cause, you will start seeing that shoulder improve. I'm not joking about that. It's instant. When it's your conscious and your subconscious, you will literally change it in an instant moment. Okay. I have so many stories on giving people that little mantra of whatever their condition ails them at that time, and that they just put a sticky note and say it to themselves. I don't want you to dive deep into what the emotional turmoil and overwhelming shit happens, right? Crap happens. Overwhelming happens. We just got to go from there, focus, and move to the next piece. And that's what I love about, these different thought patterns that could be there. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I know that's a little like overkill, but if you guys like us adding the emotional thought pattern component, let me know. So, all right. So I told you it'd be a little early. I almost did it. So I apologize for that, but hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your Monday off. So for some of you, but now what can we do for a 1% improvement? Chiropractic, get your upper cervical spine evaluated. Get it checked out while this thing is there. There's soft tissue therapies. There's like gua sha for the scar tissue and those kind of things. Cold laser. Those are all really good stuff. Shoulder blade movement patterns. That's what I want you guys to really focus on. Big time people want desk jobs. Shoulder blades should be one of the biggest things you're working on. Okay. Eat clean. Changing your diet is critical to make sure these inflammatory foods are not all over the place on you, and you're starting to eat a cleaner lifestyle, because that will make a huge difference in how your shoulder actually functions and feels. And then write down this positive affirmation right here. Let's do it again. I choose to allow all my experiences to be joyous and loving. Isn't that awesome? Pretty easy stuff. So, Julie, thank you. I appreciate it. You guys all in the chat, thank you so much for spending your night with me. With that said, don't forget, Wednesday night, we go through Whole Health Weekly, where we go through the trends of the week. And remember, as this technology stuff starts getting in the way, don't fall for it. Think to yourself, maybe if my body's working perfectly, could that really replace that? Or is my body better at it? Just think that way when you're thinking holistic stuff. So with that said, I talk to you guys this Wednesday. Have a good one.